Welcome to Conference USA 2017 Kickoff, presented by Under Armour. I'm Ron Thulin, and we've got 3 new coaches in Conference USA this season, and we've got one of them with us right now. Butch Davis is the new head coach at FIU. Butch, good to have you with us today.
Thank you, Ron. Good to be here.
Also joining us is their starting quarterback, Alex Magoo. Alex, good to have you back. Second year. This is old stuff for you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And also Anthony Went, linebacker, preseason, all Conference USA. I'm going to talk to Butch first because you and I go back to the 70s when you were with Jimmy Johnson. The first question I asked you when you came in is, why'd you get back into coaching?
Well, I mean, I think the obvious reason is you miss coaching, but you miss the kids, Ron. I mean, I think if you're going to be a coach, you got to love kids. You got to like the idea of being able to make a difference in their lives, whether it's educational, football-wise, and I miss it. I miss being in the locker room, out on the practice field, meeting rooms and stuff, and just being around kids. It's a super career.
Obviously, you're very successful on the collegiate level. Went to the NFL. What does the NFL lack that college has that draws you back to college?
Well, I would say that probably the NFL today, because of all the way in which they do contracts, you can't have great relationships with the kids. When Jimmy and I first went to the Dallas Cowboys, obviously, there was probably 75% of the guys that were on that first team in 1989. The only team they had ever been with was with the Dallas Cowboys, the Bill Bates, the Jeff Coates, and a lot of those guys. And so you literally could have teams that you could build, but you could also have a relationship with them for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 years. Ed Too Tall Jones, I coached him his first year, and I think he played 16, 17 years. Now it's 2 years, 3 years, and it's almost like college that NFL kids, they keep a core. They'll keep, 6, 8, 10, 12 of the key players, but the rest of them are going to transition and move, and you don't like that.
Now, you have been doing television the last few years. What did that teach you that maybe you didn't know about coaching or the game itself?
Yeah, I think obviously, I worked for ESPN and I worked for the NFL Network, and both of them were phenomenal. ESPN, Ron, one of the things that I think helped me was it gave me an opportunity to see a lot of programs behind the scenes, to learn things, to see how everybody else was doing it. They would send me to Alabama, Auburn, Florida State. Last year I got a chance to go spend some time with Mike Riley at Nebraska. And when you go to these programs, you kind of get a chance to see how other people are skinning the cat. How are they doing in recruiting, how are they doing the off seasons, how are they doing their training camp. And that part of it was good. But from the media aspect, you also understand, how important it is, the exposure of your program, to get a chance for, the media to come and see these guys and get to know them as people, not just as a jersey number.
Well, Butch has coached over 120 players that have gone into the NFL, which is very impressive. Let's talk about your team. Last year they finished with a record of 4-8. I did a couple of their games. I always thought they were close, and there were games that they should have won. When you came in and took over the program, what was the one thing that stood out that said, we have to do this?
Yeah, well, I told the team in the very, very first team meeting, we've got to put ourselves in a position that we don't beat ourselves, that we give the other team plenty of opportunities to lose the game, that we want to be extraordinarily good and talented offensively, defensively, and special teams. We want to be good in all 3 phases, but we want to play as a unit and as a team. And these kids have been phenomenal, Ron. I can tell you that not only these 2, but everybody in that locker room, they have bought in. Their effort, their attitude, the work ethic over the last 6 months has been phenomenal. I couldn't ask for any better.
Let's talk about the defense coming up this season. You hired a player that you actually coach, or a person you actually coach, Brent Guy, one of my good buddies. Brent always has had a little motto, and I think you have too. You got to play with a mean streak.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And one of the things about Brent, obviously, he's got great experience. He's been a head coach at Utah State, but he's coached at Arizona State, Tulsa. He's been at some places where they've always had great defenses. Growing up and playing for Jimmy Johnson and Pat Jones at Oklahoma State, defensive oriented, he understands you got to get guys that are playmakers, and you got to put guys in a position to make plays. Anthony being one of those guys that is a linebacker, a guy that can fly sideline to sideline. He can be involved in the passing game, the run game, and I really like the idea of having Brent there. He's got a lot of experience. He's seen a lot of the offenses throughout the country by being in different conferences, so I think it's a huge advantage for us.
The one thing that stands out defensively that I think that has to improve a lot, you allowed 7.5 yards per play on first down in 2016.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, that's obviously you got to win first down. Both offensively and defensively. But, defensively, I mean, we got to put ourselves in a position where we play great against the run, and we got to be able to put pressure on quarterbacks. And, defensively, the success that you're going to have on game day is going to be directly related to your ability to give negative plays, sacks, force fumbles, turnovers, create those kinds of things. And that's one of the things that obviously we started working on in the spring and will continue during training camp.
Let's touch on offense before we get to the players, because you have 6 players returning, but you've got a great nucleus with an outstanding quarterback, running back, and wide receiver.
Well, Ron, and I will tell you, and I've had this belief the entire time that I've started coaching, even going back to the high school days. If you don't have a quarterback, I don't think you have any chance at all, and we are blessed. I mean, Alex, I think, he's a terrific athlete. He can throw the ball. He's smart, and he's got a work ethic that gives our football team a great chance. He wants to be good, loves to watch film. He loves to be able to interact with the players. He's got a great relationship with the receivers, the offensive line. I think they respect him. I think that they believe that, if Alex plays well and he goes out and does the things he's capable of doing, we've got a chance to win every game.
But the problem, I think, for Alex faced last year, he was sacked 30 times.
Yeah, and that's a big challenge with everybody. And a lot of that is one, growth. We have 3 starters coming back in the offensive line. Alan Mogridge, our offensive line coach, coached with me at North Carolina, a guy that I have great faith in. I think he's a phenomenal teacher. He's a great recruiter, but he's a great teacher. And I think that that's part of it is, how do you do things that your kids can do well? What can Alex do well? What can the offensive line do well? Now that we've got a couple of new additions at the tight end position, how can we build an offense that gives Alex an opportunity to always be upright, and not take all those kinds of hits?
Well, and let's talk to you, Alex, because I've watched you progress. Last year when you were here, you talked about watching a lot of tape on NFL quarterbacks. You were always looking for that edge to improve. What did you work on this spring?
This spring I really focused on myself. Coming off last season, it wasn't the best season I had hoped for coming in. And so I really just went back and watched, myself and the decisions I made. And, sometimes I felt like I was forcing it, and when times I didn't need to. So I just really looked at myself and learned from my mistakes.
I thought the biggest improvement you had last year was touch and accuracy. I thought you realized last year not everything has to be a fastball.
Yeah, exactly. And that was one of the big things Coach Turner always emphasized with me. You don't need to throw the ball 100 miles an hour to get it to where it needs to go. And last year I really worked on that, and I felt like I improved in that area. 13
touchdowns, but 11 interceptions.
Yep.
On those interceptions, was it decision-making?
Yeah, I think so on a majority of them. Some were just a great play by the defense, or, a tip ball here and there. But, I think that I forced, 5 or 6 of them, that I didn't need to. One that I really looked at is that the end of the Middle Tennessee game, when I threw the pick 6 to lose the game when we were tied, going into with a minute left in the game. And I think I've watched that play at least 45 times just to, figure out if I could have done anything different, or if I could have, held the ball, just run. Maybe we could have took the game into overtime or something. But, just watching that game, and, that really made me look back at every game and every interception I threw, and maybe there was something else I could have done.
Biggest difference between the offense last year and this year?
Trusting in one another. I think that over the offseason and under Coach Davis, we've, kind of built together, and everyone trusts each other, and it's been an awesome experience to go through this spring and this summer with those guys.
Let's talk to Anthony Wynn, second-team Conference USA last season. Finished the year with 108 total tackles, 57 were solos, 6.5 tackles for a loss. How's Brent Guy treating you? Is he okay? Let me know, because I know him.
No, he's really good. I feel like he demands a lot from us, and me, Trayvon, all the guys. What we have now, he's let us know that that's not enough, and that he's going to demand a lot from us. Us, the linebackers, being the most experienced group, that, us being good enough isn't good enough. We have to be great or even better than that,
One thing, when I go back and I look at the tape, and I had one of your games last year, you didn't force a lot of turnovers. You're a -9 in turnover margin. Has that been a point of emphasis, that we've got to knock the ball loose sometimes and also get the interceptions?
Yes, of course. Not just for the defense, but for myself. You mentioned tackles and stuff like that, and I put it upon myself. And I talk to the other guys too that we can't just be tacklers. Sometimes we got to knock the ball out. We got to force interceptions. We got to force sacks and negative plays, like Coach said, and that's what's going to elevate our defense. Just not getting off the field, but, catching a pick 6 and getting back on the field,
What is the type of scheme you're using now, and how is it different from last season?
Right now, I mean, with all defenses, a lot of stuff is similar. we haven't really gotten into a lot of scheme stuff, but I feel like we're a lot more aggressive, if you can say that, yeah.
Butch, one of the things that you and I were talking about, you're very familiar with Miami. We only have a couple minutes left. But in 2017, the players you recruited, 11 were from Miami proper. Everyone but one was from the state of Florida.
Yeah.
You got that recruiting thing down.
Well, it doesn't take long to live in South Florida and realize how great high school football is throughout the state of Florida. And that's where, if we're going to win the way that these guys and our coaching staff and the rest of the school wants to, it's going to be built on the back of high school football players from the state of Florida. We're going to go around and we're going to cherry pick, as we did when I was the head coach at Miami. We'll cherry pick guys outside the state. There may be 2 or 3 guys that you go after someplace because there isn't a plethora of that particular position in the state of Florida. But, the majority of the kids there's fabulous, fabulous athletes, guys that love to compete. They love to play other sports, and hopefully, we'll be attractive enough to be able to get them to come to FIU.
Well, I think I can speak for everybody in Conference USA, but you are so welcome to be part of this conference, and we're excited to have you.
Well, thank you very much, Ron.
Always good
Appreciate
seeing you
it.
again, my friend.
Thank you.
Well, we still have another Conference USA coach that is in his first year in Conference USA. We'll talk to him when we return at the Kickoff from Dallas.